So help our viewers understand that because we have a lot of experts on this program and they have all sorts of different opinions. I would say if I had to sort of create a consensus, I would say that a lot of them are kind of concerned actually about consumer households. And yes, it's good that wage growth has picked up and that is helping. Like I said, though, a lot of households still feel like it's got a ways to go before they really feel like they've healed from this cost of living shock that they took on. But we've seen things like tremendous growth in, or let's say rapid growth in household debt, especially revolving credit. That's happening at a time where that credit is charging record rates. We're seeing, an explosion of participation in payment schemes like buy now, pay later and whatnot. A lot of people take these signs as signs that the consumer household is like increasingly starting to struggle, right? And we just saw the retail sales numbers for January just came out, and I think it was the biggest year-over-year decline that we've seen in retail sales since like the early part of 2020 when we were shutting down the global economy. Now that's just 1 month. That's not necessarily a trend yet, but people can certainly look at some of these data points and say, I don't know. It seems to me like the consumer is really beginning to get weak. And when you look at consumer sentiment, yeah, it's improving, but it's improving off of pretty low levels. When you say the consumer household is strong, what particular metrics are you looking at?
Well, I think it's important in this sort of circumstance to make sure that you're looking at a holistic picture of what's going on, rather than trying to pick particular pieces of information. There's always, in any macroeconomic environment, there's always a lot of cross-cutting information. In the past, if you go, over the past 20 years, it's been valuable to try and pick out the things that look like they're leading because there is that self-reinforcing dynamic. But in an environment where, the post-COVID environment has created a lot of noise across a lot of different things, plus an elevated inflationary environment, means that you can get distracted by certain things when you're trying to pick out pieces rather than look at the whole. So like, just responsive to the couple things that you brought up, consumer credit has risen as a percent of disposable income. It remains, at roughly the same levels as it was pre-COVID. Consumer credit, of course, has expanded in nominal terms because consumer credit is predominantly revolving credit card debt. That credit card debt, the vast majority in dollar terms, is paid off on a monthly basis by the borrowers on the credit cards. And so what you're seeing is nominal spending rising because inflation has risen, which means that the debts on revolving credit inevitably have to rise because the overall level of spending and charges on the accounts are rising. And so that's why you need to look at it relative to disposable income. Secondly, if you look at buy now, pay later, a lot of people get focused on that. Just for context, buy now, pay later, the amount of borrowing, the impact on GDP is equivalent to the GDP of Saginaw. Saginaw, who cares about Saginaw? Probably, 99% of the people watching this video probably can't even pick out Saginaw on a map, right? I come from Detroit, so I know where Saginaw is. But like, that's what we're talking about. Like, who spends their time talking about Saginaw, right? But that is the reality of what people are doing when they start to talk about buy now, pay later, right? That's how big that is. It added like tenths, like tiny, basis points onto GDP because it is so small. But yet people are talking about it because it's a shiny thing that looks bad rather than quantifying it. And that's why it's so important. You have to quantify these points. It's not, oh, there's some stress in one corner, some stress in another, therefore the whole system's going to come down. What's going on with the vast majority of households? With secularly low unemployment, their incomes are growing at 5% nominally. They have bought houses that they financed at between 2 and 3%. Those house prices up 40%, and their stocks are surging, making their 401ks as good a shape as they've been in a long time. Like, that's what's going on. And the result is that these households are spending their nominal incomes and creating real spending power. And so, that's the aggregate picture. That's the picture for the median household.